Hello, everybody, and welcome to another SIG Windows meeting. It's the 20th of October today. As always, please adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. This is a recorded meeting, as always. Let me share my screen here, and we'll get started. Point of reference, we did record the SIG Windows presentation for KubeCon North America. That's going to happen on the 20th of November is our actual meeting time, I believe 3 p.m. Eastern. If any of you are interested in checking it out early, I will post the link here in a second. Be aware that that link and that video may not be available forever. So if you want to watch it, go ahead and download it from the Google Drive. So I'm putting the link here. Just so everybody knows, it's about 25 minutes of presentation. After that, we're going to have 10 minutes of Q&A. Feel free to show up during that presentation in KubeCon. Hopefully, some of you already have passes. And we're going to get some good engagement from customers. Usually, customers and users are going to be posting questions throughout the presentation. So essentially, get 35 minutes of Q&A. All right, cool. Next item, Aravind.
Hey folks, just wanted to give a quick update on the work we've been doing at Red Hat with Windows. We now have a operator which we have aptly named Windows Machine Config Operator, which allows you to add a Windows node to an existing OpenShift cluster. The process is very easy. All you need to do is bring up an OpenShift cluster either on Amazon or Azure at the moment. We're working on vSphere support. You bring the cluster up. It needs to have OVN hybrid networking configuration. Bring up a cluster of this nature. You add a machine set CR. The operator is watching for machines that get created as a result of this machine set CR, and it does all the work of doing the kubelet configuration, the networking configuration, and as we go along, we'll also do logging and monitoring. And then you will have a Windows node attached to your cluster as a worker. You can deploy your Windows workloads. And we have released it as a community operator that you can now install from the OpenShift Operator Hub, which is present on every cluster. The main issue that we have run into is the one that I've linked there, which is about the Windows containers restarting on vSphere environments. I think Mark has paid some attention to it, and he asked us to open it up in a particular GitHub issue location called Windows containers. So we've opened it up there. I think we need some help from Microsoft here. We've been working with Jocelyn, who's been awesome and giving us a lot of support, but he's saying that we need some help from the Microsoft compute team. So that's what we are sort of waiting for at this moment. And any questions, folks, ask away.
And Mark, I don't know if that's something that you can follow up on the request by Aravind.
Yeah, I just mentioned that I think yesterday, and Arvind just opened up the issue. But I'll just say this again. The Windows containers, or just for everybody on the recording, too. The Windows containers repository under the Microsoft org and GitHub is probably the quickest path to get to the container platform devs at Microsoft. So I'll try and follow up on that if there's not action on that soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Nothing else from me.
Sounds good. And maybe Arvind, maybe sometime down the line, yeah, you guys can come in and do a demo.
Oh yeah, we would gladly do a demo.
Yeah, so add it to the agenda, and we'll give you like 10-minute slot, and we should be able to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely do that, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it.
I have a quick technical question on how your operator works. Does it assume mutable or immutable infrastructure for the Windows OS? Is it going in and are you doing special stuff with images, or are you just?
So what we are asking is the customer or the user provides so one of the inputs in the machine set is an actual, AMI or, Azure image ID that you need to put. We say that it needs to be a Windows server image with the Docker runtime installed, and then we do rest of the work. But we treat it as cattle. So as part of upgrades, we'll sometimes tear it down and bring it back up. of course, we'll do the proper draining and all that's
Okay.
needed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's nothing special.
So it's just Docker and Docker EM and ISO, and that's it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
registered. Okay, cool. Just curious.
So Aravind, from a strategy standpoint, you've seen a lot of the investments that happen here from the team with James and Amber and others leading the effort around cluster API. How does that affect your strategy, right? I mean, this is almost like a duplicative work around, standing up Windows environments specifically for OpenShift. Is there an opportunity for us to kind of band forces and maybe get you guys to cluster API as well? Is it something that's, so far out there that might not work, or?
No, we have no such, like we're not saying, oh, we'll use only machine sets. We're fine using different APIs. Something for us to keep in mind. We can definitely band forces. I know that folks from Red Hat are also involved on the cluster API side. So we're definitely keeping an eye on those developments too.
I mean, at the very least, maybe the team that built this machine config operator, they should review the cluster API cap that we have for Windows and give feedback to James and team. You guys are here first, right? So maybe you found something that we don't know about, or a gotcha, maybe that could influence our design.
Okay, yeah, sure. We can definitely do that.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Mark, next item is yours.
I wanted to bring attention to the 10C Windows optional update package, which it should be releasing today because it has a couple of important fixes for Windows containers, especially on Windows Server 2019. This fix should have fixes for DNS kind of connectivity issues on Windows, or for containers on Windows Server 2019, and also the single file mapping support for containers in Windows Server 2019, which I think we've been waiting for well over a year. The 10C package, like all of the C release packages, are they're optional updates. So you won't necessarily get prompted to install them on through Windows updates. So I've provided a link that folks can use to follow or to check on that. And these fixes will also be rolled up into the next cumulative update package, which is set to release on November 10th as well. But if folks are running into any issues with DNS and want to patch their Windows nodes, I think at least on the Microsoft Windows containers issue for the DNS issue, we've been recommending to not take the September or October cumulative rollups because of the DNS connectivity issues there. So.
Sorry, Mark, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that last bit about the DNS issue and the?
Yeah, so there's an issue that we've been tracking on. Let me just link to the GitHub issue. It's on the Windows. It's been reported a couple of places, but I think it's this one. No, 1 second. Where is? Yeah, I'm looking at it in the chat right now. So there was issues with DNS connectivity in containers on Windows Server 2019 that was present in the 8B and 9B and 10B cumulative update packages. And so there's some guidance, or there's more information in there. I will. Looks like it's already been edited. I'll add it to the, okay, it's already been added to the agenda. And the 10C package, which is the optional package that gets released on the 3rd week of October, should contain fixes for that.
Thanks.
But I guess to repeat, so we've been recommending customers that are running into the DNS issues to keep their Windows nodes on the August cumulative update patches until it's resolved, and not take the September or October cumulative updates. but now it should be
Okay.
fine to take the 10C updates, which will contain all of those cumulative updates from October and September and October as well.
Okay, and I was also wondering about the single file mapping. Does that, for Kubernetes volumes, does that work with Docker Shim, or does that depend still on Containerd?
So the single file mappings will, it only works with Containerd right now. Those were changes to the HCS v2 APIs. Their support, I believe support for single file mappings have always worked in Containerd, but there was an issue where if you were trying to map a file into a container that already existed in the container would just freak out and fail to start. And so now there's an issue where if you try to map, or the fixes are in place, so if you try to map a file into a container that already exists, it'll just get updated with whatever you wanted to map it with. And this is important for the scenarios where we want to update the etc hosts file in the Windows nodes, because that file is present but empty in the Windows Server based container images. And the kubelet will, under many circumstances, try and update that. And that's been coded around and excluded in the kubelet for behaviors to work around the issue of the containers failing to start.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mark. James, you want to talk about the Docker Hub registry rate limiting stuff?
Yeah, actually, I think Claudio or Adeline is probably the best person to talk about it.
Yeah. So there's going to be a couple of updates when it comes to Docker Hub. I don't know if you've been aware of this, but I think James linked an issue on TestInfra regarding this. I think that's the right link. So the idea is that Docker Hub is going to rate limit the number of image pools people are going to be able to do. For unauthenticated users, it's going to be 100 image pools per 6 hours per unique IP, and 200 image pools for authenticated users per 6 hours. This will affect our current test jobs because we are hosting the images on Docker Hub for the moment. And we might see some issues starting November 1st because of this. This is not an issue only for us. The regular Kubernetes test jobs also have this issue because there are 5 conformance test related images which are being used in almost every test run, which are BusyBox, 2 versions of HTTPD, and 2 versions of Nginx. So basically, that rate limit is going to be hit quite fast. For the regular Kubernetes test runs, there's also already a mirror called mirror.gcr.io, which basically contains mirrored image from Docker Hub. But from what I saw, it only contains images for Linux /AMD 64. They are not manifest lists. That also contains for other architecture types or other operating systems like Windows. So we're gonna have a couple of solutions. First of all, in the Docker Hub FAQ, there's a paragraph at the end which basically says that Docker Hub still wants to offer dedicated plans for open source projects in which we fit. Here's the link regarding the November updates, and the main suggestion would be to apply for that that open source solution. That would basically means that we will probably have an elevated or promoted account, which will be able to pool, well, which will not be affected by the rate limiting, which will solve all our test runs, including the Azure ones and the Google ones, as long as they're authenticated. So that would be the first suggestion. The second suggestion would be to use a Docker Docker mirror cache registry and configure the test jobs to use that registry instead. That basically means that if the cache doesn't have an image, it will pull it from Docker Hub. And even if it does have it, it will check for updates. And checking for updates is not rate limited, which is great. And that would basically save us from the rate limiting issue. Our current suggestion was to have one of those mirrors in Azure and see how the test runs work with that and see how good the solution is for this. I'm not sure about Google for this, to be honest. But I think I'll cover the other solutions as well before we can start discussing. The third solution would be to finish the Windows support pull requests for test images, which I've started, I don't know, last year or something. I only have 2 pull requests left, and one of them is almost approved. It only needs approval for one single file, which has 2 lines of code changed. When that happens, the image promoter and image builder will build the Windows images as well and push them to the Kubernetes GCR.io registry. And then we won't have to use Docker Hub for testing. And that will also solve our issue. For the most part, we still have the same issues as the regular Kubernetes test runs, but that's also something that I've volunteered to help on.
Yeah, I mean, at the high level, Claudio, thank you for outlining all of these. If we can finish the Windows image promoter and then just get all our images in the GCR mirror registry that everybody's using, then we'll kind of snap to everything that the rest of the community does, right? So I think to me that's ideal, because then it gives us a mirror registry that we can run jobs anywhere we want, on-prem or in the cloud. And then it also aligns with the rest of the test infrastructure for the community.
The thing is that this is a time-sensitive issue. We are going to hit this problem very hard on November 1st. So we have to have a solution ready when that comes up.
How long do you think you will need to kind of finish that work, out of curiosity? Like just get it in.
I don't have any work for those pull requests to do. I finished them some time ago, and in addition to that, we've also merged some buildx implementation for the test image building process, which basically means we won't need any Windows build nodes to build the test images at all. That merged last week, actually.
So all we need is for your PRs to go through them if they're ready.
Well, that should.
Yes, and that's actually only for master.
Yeah.
We will still have this problem for stable branches. For example, 1.15 uses something like 30 or 40 images from Docker Hub. So the first proposal would still be a really good to be implemented.
Got it. Okay. Are you creating the request to Docker to give us a dedicated open source account, or do you need help?
I was hoping the SIG Windows leads to do this, because this is a SIG Windows issue, and that will cover Azure and Google as well for the entire
Okay.
community, not just for us.
Okay.
So I can take an action item on that because I know the guy who is implementing all this in Hub, so I can follow up on if we can.
No, that's
get an
perfect then.
exception. Yeah.
Awesome.
Deep, do you want us to go through the official channel and going through the request, or are you going to go directly back channel?
I'll represent SIG Windows or community.
Perfect. Thank you.
Deal with it.
Just one note here. We'll still need to create a Docker Hub user for SIG Windows. So because at the moment, the E2E team is under my personal account. I mean, it's an organization, but I'm the owner, and I think I added Mark as well, and a bunch of other people would read write. So we will still need a dedicated user for this. Just keep that in mind.
I mean, we probably need a functional account for SIG Windows that can be created by Docker. Like, I'm assuming, I don't know how this process will work, but Docker will probably create it as a functional account. Because SIG Windows, they'll give them the rights, bypass the limitations, and then Deep will give you the account and we can put it in our automation.
Yeah, just so we know. Okay.
So let's follow up again on this next week. Deep, if you need anything from me or Mark, just let us know.
Sure. And another clarification, I think there's another blog post coming out shortly around clarifying some of this. So November 1st is not the hard deadline. Like that's when I think the throttles will start happening. And I think it'll be at least like well into January when they officially like really ramp things up to the 100 limits over 6 hours. So you still have a little more time, I think.
Yeah, but considering how many jobs are being run in Kubernetes, we are still gonna be hit hard by the rate limiting.
Sure.
Pretty much on every run, we are pulling something like 20 plus images, and we have 2 nodes. So you multiply that number by 2. It's almost impossible not to hit that rate limit.
And then each run we do a serial run, a serial slow run, and a parallel run. So that's going to be doubled again.
All right. So by the way, there's ways to solve this also with Hardball and using like a mirror of our registry locally. But let's see what happens with Deep, and we can figure out what we can do later on. So there's 5 minutes, folks, and I think we kind of covered everything we had for today. Are there any questions from anybody on anything else? No other questions? Cool. I'll give you all a few minutes back then, and I added a note next week. We'll follow up on the functional user for SIG Windows on Docker.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.